Alright, what's going on everyone? I got another review for Spider-Noir, and I'm wearing a top hat that's too big for my head, but I thought it would be on brand. I might do this review in black and white. I was thinking about uploading it twice with color and black and white, but I was like, that's kind of stupid. That just seems kind of cheap, but yeah, I finished the show like a week ago, a couple days after it came out. I've been working a lot, so I've been a little behind on this, but I finally wanted to get this out because I really enjoyed the show, and I'm sure a lot of people who watched it did as well, because I'm seeing just really good reviews. Nick Cage as Ben Riley, Spider-Noir is like one of the best castings, in recent memory. Especially in the Spider-Verse movies, just him voicing it was just amazing. Obviously, like a lot of people before, if you didn't read comics before Spider-Verse movies, I didn't know Spider-Noir was even a thing. And so when they were like, we're doing a live action show, I was like, that's interesting. Of course, I'm excited for anything Spider-Man because I'm a generic white boy. I think they really pulled it off. I mean, especially Nick Cage. I feel like he does a lot of his Nick Cage isms, but it fits in the time period they're doing. Even some of the impressions where he's like, see, and he does that a lot, and it just works really well. And I think because it's Nick Cage, he can get away with it. I feel like if it was like anyone else, it might come off as a little bit cringe or whatever. But Nick Cage, we've known him to be this over the top kind of character. And he can hit the dramatic beats, of course. I mean, he's an Oscar winner. He can hit the comedy. He's there for the action. I'm sure most of it, when he's in the suit, he has a stunt double. But there's a lot of fight scenes where he's not in the suit, which is nice because in the beginning, he essentially is like retired from Spider-Man because Ruby, his partner, he wasn't able to save her and she died. And so he hanged up the mask. And then he kind of slowly gets drawn back in because he's doing of course, he's a private investigator. He has Janet, who is his assistant, who is played by Karen Rodriguez, and I thought she was a really good addition as well. Their dynamic, you could tell they've been working together for a while and that they really trust each other. And he's struggling. He can't really pay Janet. He's like a few months behind on her paychecks, and she's like, I'm gonna leave, but then this guy walks in looking to see if he can investigate his wife, allegedly, what she's doing. Is she meeting up with the mayor? What is going on? And this kind of all just starts unraveling into an even bigger plot to where eventually, he has to put the mask back on and come back out and, save the city. Lee Jun Lee, I think I'm pronouncing that right, is Kat Hardy. She is the woman he goes to investigate, and then they kind of get some kind of relationship going, some kind of working relationship. I think she's supposed to be Black Cat or like a variation of that. I just heard that from other people that I watched. I didn't know that off the top of my head. And honestly, you're like halfway to a Sinister Six in this movie because you got Megawatt, who is kind of like a discount Electro. I just think for like legal issues they couldn't actually use Electro. You had Sandman, there's a Flint Marco, Lonnie Lincoln's in there at Tombstone. So you've got a good amount of rogues gallery in there for Nick Cage to go up against. And of course, Brendan Gleeson is Silverman, who's like the main big bad. And again, another crazy get for this show, because again, he's an accomplished, seasoned actor. For him to do a comic book movie show, I think it fits though, for him, because he's got that more old school vibe, and it takes place in like the early 1900s. So he definitely fits well into that era. I think he does a good job. Usually I feel like for some of these things, these more seasoned actors who you wouldn't expect to be in like comic movies or pop culture movies, they might be just phoning it in. I'm just here for the paycheck, or I'm just here for whatever. He did a really good job as the main bad, and he doesn't have any powers. His intimidation factor just comes solely from himself. Kind of like a Kingpin. Kingpin doesn't have any powers. Some iterations he's just like ginormous and he has increased like strength or whatever. Like in Daredevil show, he's just a normal dude, but he's just huge. I think overall the cast was really good. The world building was really good. I watched the whole thing in black and white and I really enjoyed it. I watched a reaction channel do it in like the color, and it looked good, but I think the black and white really adds to the vibe. And I think Phil Lord and Chris Miller, who produced the show, also said that that's like the ideal way to watch it. But I mean, either way, you're gonna have a really good time. I think one of my main complaints is the guy who plays Megawatt, Andrew Lewis Caldwell. This is probably just like a directing note for him, but I feel like he overhammed it a little too bit. Like how Nick Cage, when he hams it up, it kind of works, or it does work. But when he does it, he's kind of like like he really plays into the villain part, and it's just a little over the top. And I get that goes with the vibe they were creating, but compared to the other villains, he's just so over the top with it. And there are some scenes where I'm like, you're supposed to be intimidating, but I'm just annoyed by you. So I think other than that, it was good cast all around. And nothing against the actor, of course. Again, I think it was just a direction that he was given, You know, he's like, ham it up. You're the electric guy. You're gonna be, over the top with everything. And I think it kind of took away from his character, at least made him less scary, in my opinion. And it's only 8 episodes. Well, I say only, but that's like the norm now. But it was a good 8 episodes. I feel like they wrapped up the story pretty well. There's probably like 2 or 3 different storylines that are going on, between Nick Cage's personal struggle, Silvermane, and then there's this doctor lady who comes in later, and you find out more about why Ben Reilly got his powers, how these other dudes got their powers, and the connections that they have. And I thought it was an interesting take, other than just like in the past, it's just like, oh, they just happen to fall into a vat of eels, or they happen to fall into a super collider where you turn into a Sandman or some stuff like that. And also like the powers, like Sandman doesn't go full Sandman in the show, like he makes his fist turn into sand, he's like bulletproof and stuff like that, but he doesn't turn into a giant sand cloud and fly around and like in Spider-Man 3, which would have been cool. But again, I don't think that the show wasn't really going for that kind of, it's a superhero show, but they weren't trying to go fully like mystical or mythical with it, with the powers. It was more of like, if a normal person managed to get these powers, like more of a realistic, grounded version of that, which I thought was really nice. And yeah, now I'm just even more excited for Beyond the Spider-Verse, which I think is next June. So about another year before that comes out, and we know Spider-Noir is going to be back in that one. So I wonder if there might be like a line of dialogue or something that references the show or whatnot. Or considering in Across the Spider-Verse, there was a scene where they went into like some kind of live action references, so maybe they bring in some of these characters just for a quick split second. For a lot of the time, I was just like, I can't believe we're getting a live action Nicolas Cage Spider-Man show. Just like, it's just insane just watching it, watching him thwip around the city, watching him do all the Spider-Man isms that you're used to seeing, at least for the last 10 years Tom Holland has been doing. So just to have a new take on that. And you also have Lamorne Morris as Robbie Robertson, who I'm guessing is he's like a flip on Eddie Brock, kind of. He's not like an antagonist to Ben Reilly. They work together a good amount. He knows that Ben Reilly is the Spider. That's what they call him. They don't call him Spider-Man. He's just the Spider. I think their dynamic was really good. The main three, him, Janet, and Ben Reilly, just worked really good together. And yeah, I like that it doesn't get too convoluted. The story is pretty easy to follow. The characters, you understand their wants and needs and what motivates them to do what they do. And it's not just, well, other than Megawatt, but again, that's just a directing thing, but where it's not just, yeah, I'm an evil man, yeah. Overall, I'd probably give this show like a 9 out of 10, honestly. I hope they would do another season, but again, Beyond the Spider-Verse comes out next year. And so depending on how that movie plays out, I don't know if they'll bring Spider-Noir back, but with how much praise the show is getting and how good it is, I would be surprised if they don't do another season. Even if they did another season and it was just all animated, that'd be dope as well. Either way, like I said, I'd watch Nick Cage play Spider-Man until the day he dies. Yeah, let me know down below. Did you see Spider-Noir? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Hit the like button, subscribe. Peace.